In my previous video, I scavenged some body parts from a rotten old Ford F-250 that's standing in my forest hideaway yard. There we go. Got you. And I try to convince myself that I can make all these parts work here. I've even got an old Beetle front fender in the mix. Now I'm going to see if I can blend all these parts together to try and come up with something halfway presentable. Coming up. Hey, how's it, you oaks, and welcome back, man. Thanks for joining me out here in the shop. Hey, and if you are new here, special welcome to you. My name is Diff, and I'm busy with this 1951 Chevy Budget Rat Truck build. And when I say budget, I mean serious budget. I'm trying to spend as little money as possible, and I'm hoping to come out, when it's all said and done, way under $2,000. Will I make it? We'll have to find out. I have a question for you guys. Is it sacrilege to combine Ford parts and Chevy parts in one build? I think there are some guys out there that are probably cringing. But you know what? We are building a rat rod here. There are no rules. And in my mind, you can combine anything with anything. I mean, I've got Nissan frame, Chevy cab, Ford loadman side here, and even a Beetle front guard thrown into the mix. Let's see how this is going to turn out. So I'm just busy welding these uprights into place on all four corners. I've capped the tops of them with some 1/4-inch plate. I'm planning to drill and tap into that. You'll see my plan just now. It's cold today, but I'm heating up now. I think I can get rid of the war jacket here. Well, this section is so badly rusted here, I might as well just cut it all off. So my piece of Ford is not going to go on here like that. I have drilled through here and tapped into that 1/4-inch cap plate on top of the upright. So I can now put a bolt in here. Same story up here on the front. So it's firmly attached up here. And all floppy down there. I need to dream up a way of attaching this now. So I need to make a call where this should sit. And I do think that this line should be parallel to this line. It'll just make sense. So it needs to come out to somewhere around there. If it's in there, it doesn't look right to me. So I simply welded a flat bar tab onto the loadman frame. Then I made up this L bracket that bolts in there. And now I'm simply going to bolt right through, and then my side panel is being held in place. So I got the same deal up here in the front. So which of course means I'll have a fastener head showing here on the outside of my panel. But do we care? Do we rat rod dudes give a shit about stuff like that? And by the time it's rusted and it's got a nice little rust streak running there, Hey man, it'll be right up my alley. Alright, let's see. Hey man, ain't going anywhere now, man. There's a little bit of flex still down here, but when I do the fender, that'll be sorted out. And if need be, I can always add one of those brackets on the inside in this area. So let's just revisit this line, and I will tell you how my brain was working. I really like the fact that it's continuing the body line here. So that's what made me decide to start at that point. And as for the angle, it's actually a continuation of this line. It's not like this has never been done before. Just look at this little Morris Minor truck from the late 1950s. And here is a Ford Cortina from the 80s, where the loadman sides are even higher than the windows. So it's way higher than the standard Chevy. I think their loadman stops around here somewhere. Look here, they actually raised the loadman sides with some wooden slats, and you can see it ties into that same body line as well, pretty much. It's maybe you can see, look how high it is here. But so what, man? I think it's quite cool. I suppose you could go for the open wheel scenario, cut it a little bit here to give more wheel clearance for travel, and call it quits. You might have to do something here to support the running board. But I don't think that look will go with the fenders in the front. So I'm going to use my Beetle fender and see how I can get it to blend in here. So I've already created an attachment point here. I did that in a previous video. So I'm just going to see if I can get these bolts in, and then we'll see what happens in the back. So it's bolted onto the running board, but you can see there in the back, it's sticking out sideways way too much. And that's because it's currently still catching here. It can't move in. So if I can just come and stand in the back here, you'll see I have to remove quite a bit of material here, probably much more than what I've marked. So I can get the fender to move more in. So I think I'm going to actually be making quite a few cuts here to get this to fit. But let me start by just doing a preliminary, that word, cut here, and then we'll take it from there. Cut a little bit, then try it, and just feel my way along. I think it needs to go in even more. Yeah, so quite a few cuts later. As you can see by the evidence lying on the floor. I'm not there yet, but I'm sneaking up on it. And I just think it's safer to do small cuts at a time and move it in and see what you get. Add it to the collection. Okay, let's move it in a little bit more. Basically very close now, I think. Yeah, almost there. The shape here where the headlight used to be has started bothering me. So now I'm cutting it full of slots. So many more cuts and much thinking later. I think I've got this Beetle fender sitting as good as I'm ever gonna get it. And there is the evidence of my cut and try method. So I do need to fill in here. So I think I'm going to cut a parallel strip now that goes all the way along to tie this into the side. I need to get the paint off here so I can weld. So I'm going to have to remove this fender one more time. This marked line shows where the fender is going to be welded on. I don't have much clearance here, so I need to cut this out first. Fast Ford paint and some body filler. There's stuff growing on my load bin. A nice furry patch down here. Maybe I should leave it on the truck. There's a bit of a Ford bump here. That's not working for me. So I'm just busy massaging that a little bit to flatten it out. I think that's much closer to what I want. Yes. So my fender can go back on. And this piece of wire serves as my temporary holder here, so that it doesn't fall off. I made up this temporary bracket from a piece of scrap that's now just bolted onto the side panel, and that will just help me to hold the fender in place. I'm going to take it off later. I drilled a small hole through the fender and through that temporary bracket, and I firmly bolted it in place. So my fender is nice and secure now, it can't move anymore. And when all is said and done, I'll just take out the bolt and weld up the hole. Right, so I now have to make a patch plate to fill in this gap here. So I've started messing around with a paper template, and I'm just holding it on with these pieces of broken magnet. It's actually just an old car speaker that I whacked with a hammer. Works good enough, waste not, want not. So I'm going to make up this patch plate in two pieces for two reasons. Number one, I don't have a long enough piece of plate And number two, it will be just so much easier if I just do the one half first and then the other half. It is going to run all the way through to the back, but the same as this, parallel to the side of the load bin. So my paper template doesn't fit perfectly, but it's good enough. It just gives me the basic idea and a basic shape. Once I've cut it out of a piece of steel plate, I can fine tune it and scribe it. And so I'm going to go and cut this out of a piece of plate. And here it is. So my paper template is not that wonderful, but what I did here is I faired out these curves by eye so that they're nice and fair and smooth. And I'm going to explain to you why I want to do that. So I haven't tried this piece yet. If I take a flat parallel piece and I curve it, and then I stick it against that vertical surface, I've got a nice joint. This is square to that surface, but what happens if I tilt this, which is what I've got on the truck? You can see it opens up there. So I would need to now take off some here, same on that side. And this line that intersects with the vertical surface will always be a nice curved line. So let me do this. I'm going to hold it at that angle, and I'm going to scribe it here, roughly, both sides. Now I'm going to cut it there, flatten it out, cut it, and shape it into a nice curve. Let's see what happens. So there, look at that. I have now just smooth out a nice curve on that thing, just by eye. Let's bend it. And let's see what happens now. See, I got a good fit again, but now, hopefully you can see it there, I've got an angle here. So the more pronounced this curve, the more angle you will get. But in every situation with this kind of scenario, it will still be a smooth and fair curve. So if you're still here after all that blabbering, let's go and see if I can put my money where my mouth is, and let's go and try this. Okay, let's see. First try actually looks pretty damn good. Just gonna clamp it on here. Sometimes you gotta fit something more than once. Sometimes, many times more than once. And sometimes you score a one-hit wonder, like this one. It's sitting perfectly. It's just being held on with a little clamp up there and a magnet down here. Can't get any better. I'm gonna tack it on. German steel has got some funny stuff in it. I don't know, man. There's strange things going on here. Here on the American side, the Ford side, the welding is no problem. But here on the German side, where the Beetle fender is. It's, I don't know, it's almost like there's zinc in the metal. The welding is terrible. I don't know, maybe there's a zinc coating on here. Been really struggling with these welds. I need to be careful what I say now, but maybe it's someone's revenge. I experimented on this offcut piece, so this side of the black line I grinded it back quite hard. This side I didn't grind it back. This is just a cleaning up with that paint stripping disc. And the welding this side seems to be a much better. This side I get a lot of spatter and carrying ons. So I don't know, I can only deduct that there must be some kind of a coating, maybe a zinc coating on these metal parts. I've never welded any Beetle parts in my life. So maybe one of you guys knows something about this. Let me know in the comments. But anyway, it ain't gonna go anywhere. That's for sure. I was gonna do my stitches, but now I'm starting to have doubts about that. I might just end up with such messy welds that it's gonna look horrible. Let's see. So here on the back side of this Beetle fender, I've got bigger challenges. I've clamped on this offcut piece here because I want my patch plate, if we want to call it that, to actually pull out that Beetle headlight bump. I remember I slit it so it's all more pliable. So I definitely can't use a paper template. So I'm just doing this to get a feel for what's gonna go on here. So it's quite a story at the moment. These pieces are now obviously more movable. I might have to cut them more, we'll see. I think I'm going to use this scrap piece to make up my template and then cut my piece and then start fiddling here. Hopefully we get somewhere. So I've used this wooden block to just scribe a line that's parallel to the load bin side. So when I cut this, that should be pretty much the shape of my piece that I require, at least on this side. Well, let's go and see what we can do. Okay, so my offcut is becoming a template. Let's just see how it's going to fit. It's like within a millimeter or so on this side, so that's definitely good enough for now. So I want the final piece to be wider here, and I need to add a bit up here. So I'm going to now use this one as a template to make my final piece. So I thought I'd spare you the grinder noise, and I've cut it out already. So this side comes from my template piece. And then the other side here, that is just a thumb suck. I've just kind of created a smooth curve. I want to go fit it on the truck first and then see what will happen on that side. Might have to fine tune it a little bit. Let's go give it a try. It doesn't look too bad, eh? There's a bit of a gap there, maybe about an 1/8 of an inch, 3 mil. So I would just take a little bit off there and here to move it in, trim it a bit. And then this line, I just need to straighten it out a little bit, cut a little bit off there. So what's nice though is my plate is getting rid of that Beetle headlight bump, and I'm starting to create a nice curve down here. You can see this is
the parts of the headlight, what do you call such a thing? Protrusion? That still would need to move in. Still have to mess here quite a bit. But this line is now improving and I'm pulling that down.
Yeah, so I didn't show you how many times I've had this little freaking piece of plate on and off the truck. You would have died of boredom or something. On and off, like a freaking blinker. But now finally, I've got it trimmed and tuned and fine-tuned, and I've got a very nice tight fit here. So finally, I think I can now weld it in place. Hooray! I'm so heated up now from all this effort. I'm down to only a t-shirt, and it's actually a cold winter's day. I mean, what the hell? So now that I've got this strip holding the fender nicely and securely where it needs to be, I've started massaging the last bit of Beetle out of this fender. First I made all these relief cuts all around the headlight opening. Now they're turning into pie cuts as I bend them in. And I've just clamped on this piece of scrap to give me an idea of the curve that's required. So now I'm slowly tacking this whole mess together. Okay, so I'm working my way along. I've already done these. I think I've got 2 left down there. And then I think I will be pretty much done. Of course, I still got to weld it up and grind it and make a fillet piece in here. Let's see how that all turns out. So far, so kind of good. Now I've made this little half moon piece that I want to patch in like that to cover up that last hole. Right, let's tack this thing in place and see how it's going to turn out. So why don't you go grab a beer and then I'll quickly finish the welding and the grinding and then we can see what it looks like. And there we have it. The fruits of my labor thus far. I wonder what color I must paint those rims. That's still a decision I need to make. So if you could be here with me and you run your hands across here, you'll feel it's not perfect. It's a little bumpy. Would need a bit of fairing out. So there's several ways to do that if you were interested in doing it. I mean, you could slap some Bondo on it. That's not what we do here, man. I mean, life's too short now to be sanding that shit. You could use a planishing hammer. That would be the real pro way. I haven't got one of those. You can hammer and dolly it. To hammer and dolly it, I would obviously need to grind the welds on the inside a little bit first, take the tire off, lie on my back, work upside down. I'm not really interested in doing that now. Maybe when I take it off again, I'll give it a little bit of a go over with a hammer and a dolly, who knows. But then also we can just fare it the rat rod way and let good old rust do its thing. I mean, it's not like the rest of the truck is all smooth and fair. This thing is covered in bumps and dents. Okay, so my fender is kind of done. And I'm still stuck with a big gaping hole here that I need to sort out. So luckily I do have the original piece that fits here on top of the running board. So we can do something with that. I'm going to have to do quite a bit of customizing and modifications and goodness knows what all. I'm going to have to make a filler piece here and same in the back here so that it can tie into the fender. Yeah, let's see how it goes. I started by bolting this piece to my running board. I reckon that's a good departure point. And now I'm making a paper template to fill in this gap here so that it can blend into the fender. So this seems to be pretty close. I think that can work. I'm going to cut this out of a piece of metal. Now you can come and try that. Okay, here's my piece. It's going to go in there. And then of course I realized I can't weld it on the side, it also needs to be bolted. So I've added a little flange here so that I can bolt it to the fender. I've just tucked it in place to check it. But it looks pretty good. So I'm just going to weld this little flange completely. Then I can fit my piece. Okay, weld it, made it nice. And I can clamp it in place and weld it on. So that part of the puzzle is in place. There's a little bit of welding I would still need to do, which I can't access right now. So down the line, when I take the truck apart again and the running board comes off, I can quickly do that. So now this gap remains, and I'm using a piece of scrap here, and I'm just experimenting. Yeah, something like that. I would like to bring a bit of curvature into it. Because we like curves, man. Straight and folded stuff is boring. Let's see. So I cut me a strip of steel. It's going to give it a bend. If you want to know more about this bending brake that I built, just go check in, I think it's in the playlist. It says how to or something like that. If you'll find it, sure. Just need to get onto my marks. Mustn't be quite 90, so I'm just checking my angle here with my sample piece. Maybe a little bit more. I think that'll do it. So to get some curve into this piece, I'm trying a forest engineering plan here. Let's hope it works. I've clamped it down with this piece of pipe. So now I'm just going to see if I can bend it by hand around the pipe a little bit to get some curve into this place. Into this plate. I wonder, maybe a little bit more. Let me check it against my little sample piece. Actually, I think that might do it. I think I'm going to give it a try. Yeah, can you see? I think it worked quite well. Well, certainly many different planes and curves intersecting here. But what's interesting? Why not? Let's do it. So I've got that in place. So I suppose now you're going to tell me I must do something here as well. You're making a lot of work for me, man. So I've added this piece to suggest a continuation of that line there. Works for me. I hope you're happy. So I'm pretty much there, but this dent side business doesn't work for me. Reminds me too much of the Ford F-Series. So I'm gonna have to see what I can do about it. I have to do something about it. So I think I might have an idea, but maybe I should first do this side as well. I've got a lot of work to do. It's going to be both easy and difficult. Easy because I've established the path. Difficult because I need to try and get it the same. You know what? This is actually an insane amount of work. But I do enjoy it in some strange masochistic way. Is that the right word? And besides, what else must I do? I mean, I'm too dirty to play golf. If you take me to a pub, I just misbehave. I don't enjoy the crap on TV. You know, if I hang around the house too much, the wife just dreams up chores and improvements and who knows what else. So if I want to carry on this side, I guess I'd better go and harvest that other load bin side from that Ford truck. So hidden here amongst the pine trees, look at the poor thing. It's cold out here. Let's get to work. Come to daddy. And here's the inside of a Ford F-250 load bin. What, nearly 50 years later. Some good old American tin, saved from the Chinese recyclers and about to be resurrected. I wonder what Uncle Henry would have to say about this move. This thing is quite heavy, or getting quite heavy. I still made them good back in the day. Another marriage of Ford parts and Chevy parts about to take place. Let's see. Making progress here on this side. I'm almost ready to weld this thing on. And after all my cutting, that's what's left of the Beetle fender. So this fender is also unbumped. I've welded the Beetle right out of it. And now I've got to spend some intimate time with my trusty old friend, the grinder. So I finally got the starboard side done as well. And I tell you, the stuff I dream up, it took me hours to sort out this intricate business. But it's done. My load bin is basically in place. Or is it a load bed? Or a load box? In Afrikaans we call it a bak. So whatever you want to call it, it's kind of there. I've still got to do something in the back here. Do the, what do you call that thing? The tailgate. But we'll have to do that in another video. Thanks for spending some time with me here in the shop. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a lekker one.